This is pretty much a story about my life. You know, where I started at as a young kid and wanting to become an astronaut, and all of a sudden ended up many years later as an airline pilot with over 11 million miles of flying time and 22,000 hours of flight time. The book was written, you know, partially for young people to follow in my footsteps. I've had a wonderful life growing up, hiring on with the airlines, and after about being associated with United Airlines for about 45 years and 7 months, and I'm still associated with them right now today. It's an inspiration for the young people to have a roadmap to where they want to go in life. No matter what it is, what career opportunity they want, is for them to want to inspire to do something great. And it's an inspiration for them to prepare for takeoff. Is to, you know, I like to use the analogy creating a bag of knowledge. And what I want the kids to do when I talk to them, I say, every day you should learn something new. Because if that day goes by and you don't learn something new that day, then that day was wasted. And so I want them, if it's one word, to learn that one word and put it in their bag of knowledge, and then every day learn something new. Because they never know, one day they might be sitting on a flight going across the world someplace, and they're sitting next to a nuclear physicist. And you're sitting there and all of a sudden you're having a conversation about cobalt theory. And you can have an intelligent conversation with that individual, and they actually respect what you're saying to them. I know that as a fact because it happened to me. When I started out, came out of Mount SAC in 1976, went to Metro State University in Denver. And I was fortunate enough, when I graduated from there, I hired on with United Airlines about 2 or 3 weeks before I marched in commencement. Not as a pilot, I was a professional pilot major in college, and I hired on as a flight attendant because I didn't have enough flight time experience to hire on as a pilot. And so I used that as a stepping stone, and they asked me why, when I interviewed for a flight attendant, why did I want to be a flight attendant? And I said, well, what I'm looking for is a long-term relationship with United Airlines, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to use that as a stepping stone to get into the cockpit. And the interviewer was so impressed with that. After the second question, she says, well, tell you what, Mr. Daniels, out of all the people that was there, in 2 days, if you want to come back for another interview, you're welcome to it. Out of all of us, out of about 35, 40 people, there was only 3 of us that made it to that second interview. And out of all of the 3 of us, I was the only one that got hired at that time. In answer to your question, I know you're referring to the recent comments that was made by Elon Musk. And unfortunately, some of the individuals in the right-wing media by the name of Charlie Kirk, and they talked about pilots coming out of the HBCUs have low IQs and things like that. And in my opinion, Charlie Kirk and those folks like that, they have no idea what it takes to be a pilot. They have no idea what it takes to the qualifications. They think that coming out of an HBCU and hiring on with the United Airlines Aviate program, that these people are less qualified than someone else. They're not. They actually study a lot, really hard material. They will not become an airline pilot until they reach certain requirements. Most of those requirements are, you have to have 1,500 hours of flying time. You have to go through a student pilot, private pilot, instrument certificate, commercial pilot, certified flight instructor, all the way up to 1,500 hours of commercial license and an airline transport certificate. Even with that being said, you are not hired until they hire you, and then the airlines train you on their own specific requirements. So you have to meet a lot of rigorous qualifications, because when they give you the keys to a $300 million piece of equipment, they don't want that airplane to go out and you have people's lives in your hands. I used to fly the 747-400 back and forth to Australia about 6 times in a row, and we have 400 passengers on on board, and we had those people's lives in our hands. So when you look at that, they're not going to give you the keys to that unless you know what you're doing. Now, Robert asked me to make a quick comment about what we're looking at in terms of shortages right now. Boeing put out some numbers back in 2019 that by 2030, within the next 6 years, we're going to be short pilots, worldwide pilots, in terms of about 804,000 pilots short worldwide. And then you add alongside of that about 914,000 flight attendants, 769,000 aircraft mechanics. Those numbers total about 2.48 million people. And when you look at that and you start thinking, these are just 3 positions, not only those 3 positions, but you start talking about flight attendants, customer service agents, ramp surge agents, and all the other support jobs out there. 5-6 million people right now. This is a great opportunity. So I encourage each and every one of you to tell your kids, hey, if you want to go down, you want to have an opportunity to create some generational wealth for you and your family, go down this path, because the world is now starting to emerge. You have China with about 1.4 billion people. India has 1.2 billion. They have risen up into the middle class section. They now have the funds that they want to travel and see the world, and that opportunity is out there for them.